right in and screaming things like "Let's go!" So
let's go.
I love it.
yeah, that's going to be her opening skit. So what is up, Partner Up? Welcome back. We have a trio here today. So if you didn't catch the introduction to Michele Albany's episode, we are joined by my amazing co-host and colleague of the past 3.5 years, Michele Albanese. Michele, what's up?
Woo! Let's go. What's up, Partner Up?
Yes, indeed. And then our guest today, I am super excited about. I feel like we've been up-leveling the folks we've been bringing to you all, week after week, from Bobby Knapp to Avanish. And now we have on Dave, the CEO of Impact.com. Dave, welcome to Partner Up.
Hey guys, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I was super excited because I actually got an advanced kind of like copy of something that I think we've all been waiting for in partnerships world, which is a somewhat definitive book on modern partnerships, not like written from the IT world 20 years ago, but like a modern partnership. So Dave, you have a book on partnerships coming out, I believe, and it's available for pre-order on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. It's actually coming out the day before my birthday, February 15th. So we're excited about it. It's called The Partnership Economy.
So the Partnership Economy. So then that's available for pre-order on Amazon?
On Amazon, yes, published by Wiley. So we're excited about this one. Finally, it's getting the recognition that it deserves.
So question then, did you have to like bribe Wiley to like do that the day, before your birthday? Was that part of the contract negotiation process?
No, it's just, these things take time. It's actually been in the making for over 2 years, probably 2.5 years now. These things take time, but they're extremely excited about it. I think we had the same effect on Wiley as we do like, potential customers that we talk with or other partners. Like once you get into the story and you explain what's happening, like people's eyes light up, the light goes on, and it snaps for them. And it was exciting to get Wiley behind the story. So they're excited. We're excited. Comes out February 15th.
I'm excited. I've been waiting for something like this for a long time. So Partnerships Economy, I got the advanced copy. And one thing that I will call out, and we'll get into some of the topics for today, is that the examples that you were using and calling out almost not necessarily as a case study, but illustrative of the point of how to activate these big partnerships and how people are kind of thinking a little bit differently about their go-to-market today. The examples that you utilize in the book are so relatable to the people that are living in the modern SaaS era. And I think that's what's been lacking more than anything, is that anything that's documented or written or a book is, it's old names and old logos that a lot of people can't relate to. So I commend you and the team and the work that you put in on bringing something modern to the forefront and using examples that I think the SaaS world, both B2C and B2B, can take some great nuggets from. And I also think it's a great executive primer as well. Like one interesting story, which it may or may not have been a book that you've read, was when Sequoia kind of joined formatively at HubSpot and started working with Brad Coffey and kind of like their partnerships leader team. They made everyone read Platform Revolution as a primer. And I feel like, this might be that similar kind of primer for a company that's going, hey, we really want to formalize our partnership strategy. This is something the CMO, the CRO, the CEO, the CTO could all read to go, okay, what does that mean? Aside from hiring someone and saying, you're anointed with partnership strategy and go work in a silo and then come tell us why you can't source revenue.
That's right. Yeah, the first thing I would say is, although my name is on the book and definitely helped drive the writing of the book for sure, of course, but the truth is this book was really written by our business and it was written by our customers. What we dive into is the stories of Impact.com customers, the experience they've had, just internally, just kind of like evolving their whole strategy around partnerships and the work that we've been doing. That's really where the story came from. And it was just exciting for me and the team to kind of take that story to market essentially. And the rewarding thing is, partnerships have been going on for hundreds of years probably. But I think what has happened in the past is that they've existed like in silos in these very fragmented teams within the enterprise. And, I feel like we're that first platform. We're now this global standard platform for all partnership types. And there's, I tell a story about Walmart, like why did they choose Impact.com? And it was because they wanted to get all their different partnership types into one place and then really put the people, process, and technology behind a really important business strategy for them. They compete with people like Amazon, right? Amazon has probably the world's most successful partnerships or associate program. They call it the Amazon Associates program. They get over, I think it's 600 million customers per month to their app and to their website buying things through their associates. And I think a lot of businesses are waking up to this opportunity that exists when you put influencers together with the traditional rewards affiliates, with commerce content stuff, biz dev stuff. Walmart replaced like filing cabinets, literally filing cabinets of business development contracts, consolidated all that into one platform. And I think, the exciting thing for us is that I feel like we're waking the world up that this is a big thing when you put it all together, like in their own, like they're kind of ad hoc things that businesses are just doing throughout their organization. But when you put it together, is where you realize the magnitude of the effect that all this has on business essentially. And so it's been an exciting story for us to tell. And you're talking about HubSpot. They did something similar. They proved that there's a category that exists around inbound marketing and the need for automation. And if you were to kind of look back, 10 plus years, they were roughly the size that we are today. You fast forward to today, they have over 100,000 customers on their platform. They just crossed over $1 billion in revenue. And we see that exact same journey for a company like impact.com, just proving that there's a real category and an opportunity here for businesses around partnerships. And while you're getting your act together around organizing your people, you think of sales teams, think of marketing teams. Most enterprises have very sizable teams in those other categories and channels for revenue acquisition. And you think about process, you think of territories and quotas and what's that process you're going to follow every day to make calls and get opportunities started to do business, et cetera, pipeline coverage, quota coverage. Partnerships haven't been thought of in that same light. And this is the thing that's exciting for us at impact.com, is just really trying to educate and evangelize the power of this channel. And that's really the driving force behind wanting to write this book and tell that story so that other businesses can participate, especially now, especially when you look at the challenges that are happening around just advertising in general, like especially digital advertising. We're losing cookies, we're losing retargeting, we're losing measurement, we're losing the
Oh,
modern
and it's
consumer.
getting cheaper too, right? Like the
Yeah,
cost of
yeah,
ads are just going down,
right.
conversion rates are going up.
Not,
It's just getting easier to go to market, right?
not. Yeah, there's a lot of stars aligning that I think is just the perfect time for a book like this to come out and kind of educate the market on how you can remain competitive in this modern space.
And I think that's one of the things that I was so excited whenever I talked to you initially, Dave, is that you're full of anecdotes and stories and kind of examples of how companies are utilizing best-in-class partnerships as a primary lever in their go-to-market. And one of the things you talked about that there's referral examples everywhere, right? Like you mentioned something as simple as recruiting. I mean, the best source of new hires is typically your people, right? So like, let's maybe talk about some of those examples that you think through whenever you're trying to maybe educate a wider organization. You're leading impact.com. I think you're the largest software kind of player in the space of partnerships technology. What are some of the examples you use to help a team understand, hey, look, you might think this is new to you, but it's actually, these referrals concepts, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think you can dive into those stories without first understanding what's evolved on the consumer side. And we can go as far back as you want to talk about it. But,
Right.
I think of going way back, people sitting around the radio and around the TV where there were just a handful of channels that were available to them. And they were kind of told what to buy, essentially, right? So everyone sang the same jingle and ran out and bought the same products because advertisers were kind of driving the narrative, and there wasn't like an ecosystem or anything else out there to kind of compare with. People just kind of went and bought what they were told. If you fast forward to today and you look at the amount of information that is out there about products, I think it started with the large social media publishing platforms like YouTube. You had influencers that were just passionate about certain products that would do unboxing videos and people just showing products and talking about what they like and don't like. And that really kind of helped to drive what people bought and how they bought, essentially. I think the major publishers like the Condé Nast and the Meredith brands, the BuzzFeed brands, those major teams of editors started to follow along and said, hey, let's pay a little bit more attention to what our readers actually want instead of us making the editorial decisions, kind of like the old media channels. They were deciding all the news that was fit to print. And when you look at the social publishing platforms and how they had comments and they had subscribe or unsubscribe, sort of features. There's real-time feedback that the audience was providing on those platforms. And I think the major publishers took note of that and started to do the same thing, surveying their audiences, following search trends, social trends, and started to write about content and reviewing products about what their audience was interested in buying. Like Wirecutter was acquired by New York Times, and they find out that people are in market to buy a 4K TV, but they're too expensive. So they review all these different 4K TVs and write a product review and recommendation set, try and guide their audience. And you look at the amount of information that's out there today that's like that commercial-based content. That's really what's driving the kind of the buyer journey today. And I think if you add all that up, this is the thing that gets me most excited about, like who really wins in today's environment. It's the end consumer, because what partnerships is all about is, I think, just acknowledging the fact that the consumer today is in full control of the buying journey. They're no longer doing what you're telling them, with an ad, and in fact, they just have outright disdain for that disruptive, interruptive behavior of advertising, and they're taking a more active role in searching for what they want to buy and how they're going to buy it. And they're getting that information from these publishers, these influencers, these other businesses that are giving recommendations on those things. And that's what's guiding them. And so what I get excited about most, just to dive into your question, Jared, on some examples, would be we're mature businesses who get this. It's all about the modern consumer today, and how do we embrace them, honor them. Let's stop interrupting them, and let's start giving them a better experience. Like think about what we've done to the consumer over the years, over the last decades that I've been in digital advertising and MarTech. We've done pop-ups, we've done email spamming, we've done everything to just interrupt what they're online to do. They're online to do three things. They're looking for information, looking for entertainment, they're looking to connect with people. That's it. They're not online looking for ads. And we've just abused the format of advertising, I think, over the last couple of decades. And so now the modern businesses, and we tell these stories actually in the book, businesses that really belong together in a way that they can integrate their services and create a point of convenience or just a better experience in some way for the consumer are the ones that get me the most excited. Like a really easy example is Qantas. You go to qantas.com to book a flight to Australia, you'll see top of fold an option to also book a stay at an Airbnb. That just makes sense. Those brands, are of the same caliber. They kind of belong together. You would think if you're booking a plane ticket, you're probably going to need a place to stay. Airbnb promotes it as fly there, live there. They've got a lot of travel partnerships that are done like that. I interviewed, it's not talked about in the book, but I interviewed recently Canva and HubSpot. So if you're in HubSpot, these are both channel partnership customers on our platform. So if you're in the HubSpot platform and you're looking to do a design element for an inbound marketing campaign that you're doing, does it make sense to exit the HubSpot platform and then go over to Canva, do your design, and then bring it back into HubSpot? No, that doesn't make sense. So if you're in the HubSpot experience, you can now tap, sign up with Canva, do your design thing all within HubSpot, and add that to your inbound marketing campaign. It makes complete sense.
I
Another
could go
example.
on and on about the Canva example. I have to interrupt there because I want to come back to that because it's an example of B2C versus B2B, which I know we want to get into. But it feels to me like there's absolutely a category of technologies that can be created with that same concept in mind. Like a lot of Canva's, I think innovation comes from the fact that they're not just a design tool, because there's how many design tools online? I mean, there's hundreds of design tools, right? But their distribution strategy is to power design in the area where people need it, not in this separate other application. And that's a novel way of thinking about going to market. And I feel like what we've been so addicted to in the MarTech world is how do we optimize our funnel? How do we optimize for that conversion? How do we come up with new ways of injecting ourselves into some consumer discovery process to try and capture demand? And I feel like the other way of approaching it that you're talking about is putting that consumer behavior and that buyer experience first, is actually thinking about something entirely different, which is how do I make the consumer's life better where they already live? Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you think about Canva's 100%. Value proposition, I mean, my last company I was at, PandaDoc, they have a great integration where you probably need designs in your documents. That partnership got announced and there's, already thousands of people using it with a startup and a startup thousands of people using the integration, just like that. Why? Not because Canvas tried to inorganically interrupt the PandaDoc user flow or the HubSpot user flow. They've said, hey, we're going to help you where you live. A lot of CEOs should take note of that, I think, in this day and age.
Yeah, they teach you that in marketing school and college, but I don't think people pull it forward to the way the modern marketers are thinking about it today, at least on our platform, where it's all about being what I call relevant in the daily lives of the consumers that you're trying to do business with. Like a lot of people, for example, have a certain opinion about cashback coupon loyalty types of publishers like Ibotta. They've got 35 million app installs, people who are starting some of their e-commerce journey, going to Ibotta saying, hey, I want to buy this thing, guide me in the right direction. And there's some kind of rewards or loyalty or cashback related to that exchange. It's kind of like, I don't care what you think of that type of publisher, think of the consumer and what they're doing essentially. I interviewed Wink and Sunbasket recently, and Wink was kind of telling me the story about how they choose their partners, and they said, well, we're looking for partners. Both of them are clients on our platform, and they know that through Sunbasket, they're getting these prepackaged, pre-made meals mailed to them. Doesn't it make sense that they might want wine to go with that meal? It's kind of like the Super Size Me, experience at McDonald's. I don't want to lower the experience there. We probably cut that part out of this thing now that I think about it. But the idea is, doesn't it make sense that in your Sunbasket package, there would be an insert that says, hey, we're partnered with Wink, and would really recommend them as, if you're looking for wine. But it goes much further than that. Like this is the thing that really gets me excited, is when Wink tells me, that how deeply they believe in how their products are sourced, how they clean their equipment, how they manufacture their wine, how they treat their employees, all that stuff. And what they've built that into their partnership program, because this is the other thing. Again, recognizing the modern consumer today, they care about those things. They care about doing business with brands that operate a certain way, and they're going to keep buying from those types of brands. So when someone like Wink is looking to partner with other businesses, it's not based on, the highest commission return on a referral, or it's not just the highest amount of sales. It's like, who's a really good match for my consumer? Because we, Wink, as a brand, care about these things, and we're going to make sure that anyone that we partner with, that their brand in its entirety aligns with our brand as well.
Right. If I think about this a little deeper, the preference towards the consumer experience, it's like, we've been evangelizing that, Michele, for years, right? Like consumers have all the control, like the rise of conversations over filling out.
They have all the power. They have all the power, whether we believe it or not.
Like we see that adrift given where we sit in the customer journey, that people want answers to their question, not just to sit around and wait for a sales rep in B2B. But if I think about the reasons why a lot of companies, as much as they might think that they want to prioritize the consumer experience, at the end of the day, sometimes that's not enough, right? They might recognize, hey, consumer behaviors change, but I still have metrics. I still have, a board. I still have a CEO. I still have these other demands of me. And I think the thing that people also need to recognize is not just the consumer behaviors changing. It's also kind of what we opened with, or at least what I was making fun of, which is the continuation of rising acquisition costs and declining conversion rates, right? This is not just a consumer preference, it's a business imperative in 2021 and beyond. Like in this decade, Jay McBain's called it, the decade of ecosystems. And why is that? And I think it's the consumer preference, like you mentioned, but it's also, hey, the promise of digital advertising, is that still really here at a scale where we can, break through the average American seeing between 400 and 10,000 ads a day?
Yeah.
Let's try and
step through that, because there's a lot to unpack on that point. I'm gonna maybe just kind of give it from my perspective, because I've watched this movie now for the last couple decades, coming from Conversant and other companies in the MarTech ad tech space. And what I've seen happen here is, essentially, advertising has been around forever. It's had a certain promise, and it's the whole mindset is doing something to the consumer and manipulating data to kind of, best target, and jam an ad in front of somebody's face. That's kind of what we've done like for hundreds of years probably now, or at least 100 years. And when you look at, I think the tipping point that we've hit, you touched on this, Jared, is the skyrocketing ad price. I think that was the final nail, honestly, in the coffin for advertising, digital advertising at least. Because what's happened is big tech, so that's Apple and Google, namely. So Apple has done away with IDFA, that's the identifier for advertisers. So you can no longer identify somebody on an iOS or a Safari device. And then Google followed up to that with loss of the Google cookie as well as retargeting, or at least I think they've pushed it out a little further. So they've announced that they're doing away with it. And so what does all that mean? If you're a brand, you cannot effectively target, track, or measure an ad anymore, unless it's within what are called the walled gardens, right? And so that's namely Google, Facebook, Amazon are the top 3 platforms basically that are getting more than 90% of digital ad dollars. And if you look at them, plus TikTok, plus Snap, and all the other top big tech platforms, their ad rates are up 100+%, most of them, right? The average CPM on Facebook has grown to, the latest figure I saw was $11 CPM. You know, a year or two ago it was $3. It's now $11 CPM on average to run an ad on Facebook. And so it's really hit the pocketbook of the advertiser for the last 10, 15 years. It's just been easy. It's been very coin operated. I put $1 in, I get a click back, everyone's done, and let's just keep rinse and repeating this advertising thing that we've been doing for 100 years. Now that the ad rates have gone so sky high, it's forcing businesses to finally wake up to the real heart of the issue, and that is this interruptive, sort of behavior of advertising and what's wrong with it. I have clients now that I think some of the thought leadership that we've put out there certainly has been helpful, but I think a lot of people are just kind of realizing this for themselves. What they're saying is, gosh, we've done some testing. We turned off Facebook. Yes, we've lost some sales results with it, but not as much as we thought. More importantly, as a senior team, we're realizing that we don't want to be that ad. We don't want to be that interruptive, disruptive sort of brand that is kind of interrupting the flow of what consumers are doing. And we want to be a little bit more relevant in the daily lives. What are they doing in their daily lives? This is the other thing that has changed. The person that used to go to malls and like trip over a deal, just mindlessly walking through and buying things, that doesn't exist anymore. I think that the pandemic just put that to bed. Today's shopper is a very active, engaged shopper. They are researching. They are looking at 15 points of reviews, recommendations, whether it's written, whether it's a video. It could be a small influencer. It could be a major publisher with a team of editors doing a review on something, but it has almost become a competitive sport. Like, people are shopping and they are after that dopamine hit when that package shows up on your doorstep, just like you get with a comment or a like on a social post that you do. There's a lot more shopping going on. You got 2 million stores on Shopify. 10 years ago, it was like 40,000 stores on Shopify. So you got a lot more choice. You've got a lot more shopping, and you've got a lot more information that's out there today that didn't exist even 5 years ago. There used to be a couple unboxing videos on YouTube. You look at it now, any product that you want to buy, somebody's had an experience with it, and you're in there searching for that experience, that review, just to get a little closer to, should I buy this thing or not? And that's what's driving the modern day purchase. And this is the world of partnerships. Impact.com is a platform that is trying to get businesses to connect with that kind of information. Find the people and the businesses that have this authentic, trusted relationship with the consumer. So what they're doing is they're selling to their audience. They're not selling their audience, they're selling to their audience. And there's a very different perspective when you look at it from that view, right? Because it goes back to my very first point. They're putting the consumer first. If they don't put the consumer first, they're going to lose subscribers. They're going to lose kind of their base. And I look at it as those influencers are not a salesperson for the brand. They're kind of like the buyer representative, right? They're the agent for the buyer, kind of acting on their behalf. I think this is like the most revolutionary era in marketing that I think we've witnessed in a very long time. And I think everyone should be excited about it. And that's going back to the book. What I'm hoping the effect of the book has on businesses that are not fully tuned into this.
I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting because it feels like it's touching on another trend that isn't just the consumer experience. It's not just the rising cost, declining conversion rates. There's also this feeling of, I don't know. I mean, I guess COVID had a lot to do with it, but consumerism is back in a new form. Like, I felt like it was really coming on strong in the mid 2010s and then kind of faded away. And like now I almost feel like shopping has become a sport. The second we got on this call, Dave, the second we got on this call, the very first thing that Michele did is she holds up what, Michele?
My Whoop 4.0.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not only
Why?
an influence, it's because it's not only an influence of influencers and partnerships and quote unquote trusted advisors. So buying from other people you know and trust. It's the same thing that goes with your friends, right? So when you think about a consumer purchase, you might look at what your friends are doing, or you might look at what your favorite influencers are doing. And it goes back to the same thing with tech partnerships in B2B or any other partnership you might discover in the space with B2C. It's like, what are the people that I want to be like or want to pursue to be like? And how can I purchase and be like them and trust them in my buying purchase? So yeah, Jared introduced me to Whoop, and I was excited to show him that I got the newest version and shared it on social myself. Got a ton of people, friends, engaging and understanding and asking, where'd you get that? How'd you get that so fast? All that sort of stuff. So it's happening here in your day-to-day life, let alone with these big buying purchases.
Yeah, and it's not all competitive in that sense. I think it is to a certain extent where people are competing with each other on social media, but people are just passionate about this stuff, and there's just so much choice. To my other point out there, that people are just into this stuff, and they're excited to share it. It's just part of the daily life now. Is this commerce behavior?
I think people are excited to share it, to your point, Dave, because they've done so much research. Shopping is a
That's a
sport,
very
right?
good
They put
point.
so
That's a
much
very good
energy
point.
into finding that purchase, so they're excited to then share it and close that loop. So, and they want more people to see and experience what they did based on all the
And again,
research
just to
they
tie
did.
it back, in case it's not obvious, that research it comes from the publishers and the partners that are part of these programs that I'm talking about, right? Because it's not ad, it's very native content, right? And the change here is going from ads that surround that content, right? That's what Facebook does, and other social platforms where that content is published. We're talking about the commercial links within that content. So it could be a description of a video, or it could be, an article that a Wirecutter editor writes. There could be a link for a Vizio TV inside of the content piece that they're writing itself. We're not talking about the advertising around it. We're talking about the content itself is commercial in nature. It's what we call commerce content. And a lot of these editors are inserting these commerce links from an impact.com type of platform, and forging relationships with, Walmart in that case for a 4K TV, or someone else where that product is sold.
Right.
And,
So
and
they're
here's
linking
here,
back. Yeah.
and here's another thing that's like super interesting, I think, is looking at the supply side of how this has evolved. So meaning the publishers themselves, especially the major publishers, these guys have been cut out big time by ad tech for the last 10 years. Like they used to have direct relationships with brands, selling their CPM, display ad space. By the time you insert a DSP, an SSP, a DMP, an agency, I mean, oh my gosh, there's like 10 cuts of that gross dollar CPM to where they're getting pennies on the dollar. That was like the first issue that came up. Now with the loss of targeting, tracking, measurement, unless you're inside the walled gardens, they're in a really tough position to make those ads work. And over the last 3 to 4 years, like I said, they've been tuning into what the influencers are doing, really listening to their audience, starting to publish content that's more commercial in nature. A lot of these big publishers, like look at BuzzFeed, look at Vogue, a Condé Nast brand, look at CNN has Underscored. I mentioned New York Times' Wirecutter. All of these major publishers have large commerce teams now. They're publishing a lot of commerce-based content, and inside the content are these commercial links, right, to the articles that they're talking about. And these are editorial decisions that they're making. They're not doing this to be a cheesy salesperson. They are delivering authentic content that their audience is demanding. What I heard from the GM of Meredith recently is that their commerce revenue has grown 10x in the last 3 years, and they now have many of their pages, I should say, I think is what she's saying, without ads at all, and they're focused solely on the commerce links within the content, and they're getting 3x the return on those pages, as opposed to
Yeah, because it doesn't
doing it
feel
with
like you're
advertising.
being advertised to, right? It's just within
Mhm.
the context of what you're
It's very
actually
native.
reading and
Yeah,
coming back
it's
to
very
it.
native.
Because,
Yeah, and the
yeah,
challenge for those publishers is how do you maintain, your business interests along with your editorial interests? And they know, just like the
yeah.
influencers have taught them, if you push yourself too far outside that circle of trust, you're going to lose your audience, right? And so they know that, and so they're going to remain true to their audience always. If you want an ad, I asked in an interview with Neela, she's the SVP of Commerce at BuzzFeed recently. I said, hey, what if Kim Kardashian comes to your editors and says, hey, I'll pay you $1 million to write a review on this product that I'm launching? She says, I tell her to go talk to the ad sales team. That's not what we do. Like we're in kind of control of our editorial decisions. So it's fascinating, I think, how that has evolved itself.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that might be related to another consumer trend, which is that consumers are just more skeptical. And I also feel like that's because of a rising increase in the quality of goods and services, right? Like digital transformation has not only allowed for more businesses to come into an existence, for more disruption, but for the kind of price disparity to also increase, right? Quality is increasing, as well as consumer kind of skepticism. I mean, Michele, I know you could like throw it back at me, but like Dave, we were discussing how I have like these melon hats. I think I have like here's one, here's two, here's three, here's four. That's my running one. Like I have 4 of these stupid hats. These are $60.
And how much did you spend on those hats? How much did you spend on those hats, Jared?
They're $60 each.
For a hat.
For a hat. I never would have expected spending $60 on a hat, much less 10 of them. But that's because the quality is fundamentally so much better than any other hat I've ever had. Right? Like I run in Florida. Michele and I live in Florida. It is a humid, hot mess. Going for runs in Florida. I mean, my hats are, they're disgusting. But these hats are incredible. They actually withstand that test of time.
And here's the thing, just that example right there with you, Jared. I think you said skeptical. I would say consumers are skittish. Like they know when there's a filter on that photo, right? And it's like they have lower respect for that. Like they will call bullshit if they see somebody being a cheesy salesperson. Oh, this is just a hashtag ad. That's an ad. That's not partnerships. That's an ad. What you just said, Jared, is the world of partnerships, where this is something that you're passionate about. You're really behind these products. If you were to do like a proper review and post about that with commercial links to go refer, people are happy to buy using your links because they feel like they owe you, some sort of exchange for that information. That's the other thing is that I've noticed. Yeah, this is laughable almost, but the craziest example of this that I saw. Every once in a while, I'll do a woodworking project, and I needed to make a joint for this table that I was making. And so, of course, I get on YouTube, and I find this guy. He's got a lot of videos out there. He's got about $1 million, believe it or not, just some older gentleman in Northern California. At the end of his video, he says, hey, my channel is no longer sponsored by MicroJig, which is this table saw jig so you don't cut your hand. He goes, but I've been sleeping on this Casper mattress for the last 2 years, and I love it. I almost fell out of my chair laughing. It was just so out of context, but the guy, he spent, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. It's time lapse, him dragging it into his living room. He unboxes it. He's got it set up in his bed. He's sitting on, he's talking about what he likes, what he doesn't like about it. His cat's sitting on it. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if I was in market to buy a mattress right now, I would click his commercial link in the description of the video and buy that mattress through him, because he just helped me make this joint. He just made this 8-minute video giving me some information about something else. And I feel like I owe him something, So
it's like a thank you. It's how can I repay this guy for saving me some time by walking me through this?
Yeah. It's a really fascinating economy that we're operating in. It's very dynamic. And on one end, we've got clients like, maybe just to kind of change the subject here a little bit, but on our platform, just to tell you how dynamic this ecosystem is. So we have Target and Disney Plus as a client on the impact.com platform. Now they're working on a partnership where Target is serving as a partner to Disney Plus. So in their stores, they're promoting Disney Plus streaming, and they've got that set up, and there's tracking that's happening on our platform to kind of account for that. And so that's just one of the things that I love about this whole economy is like anybody can be a partner to the other entity essentially, and find ways to continue to grow and be relevant to the consumers that they're each serving.
Yeah, find that joint value proposition, that better together story, and it's amazing what you can do, right? Like even things that you might not even recognize at first glance. Jared, you talk about this all the time, finding the black swan in the room. Like what's the thing that's going to help the end consumer that you might not recognize in the beginning, but ends up being the MVP story. So yeah, I think that's amazing. So on your platform, they're able to even uncover those opportunities just by working there.
We had another, you were talking about the pandemic earlier. We had another really interesting story that came out of left field for me. It's with Rastelli's, which is a direct-to-consumer meat business, along with Sunbasket, just to mention them again. But Rastelli's, not a whole lot of people know about Rastelli's because their main business is supplying, call it protein, so meat like chicken, steak, fish, to a lot of restaurants and hotel chains. And so so they are the sole protein supplier to Sunbasket, who does the direct-to-consumer prepackaged meal. So during the pandemic, people started to message Sunbasket and said, "Hey, can we just buy a steak from you or chicken from you directly? We don't want to go to the store, the grocery store, because there's a pandemic, and if when we do, they're sold out of meat." And so Sunbasket said, long story short, "Hey, we don't sell just the meat direct to consumer, but we get all of our protein from Rastelli's. Why don't you go there to buy your protein essentially?" So they did a B2B partnership. So back to that other example. So they promoted, I interviewed the CEO of Rastelli's. I think I could give the exact dollar amount, but it was like 100x return. So in 1 month, it was like 100x. I think I can report the numbers. They went from like 10,000 in sales through that partnership to 1.5 million in 1 month through that B2B partnership. And this is just to give you another example of how, again, dynamic. This is another really good example. What did Rastelli's do? As their consumers picked up, and then they got commerce content placements with CNN underscore. Those team of editors said, "Hey, people, are in a pandemic looking to get meat. We're doing the reviews of the top, direct consumer meat companies," and they did their write up on Rastelli's and a few others, Omaha Steaks, and they generated referrals that way. And then Rastelli's business, the customer base built up. And then what did they do? "Hey, you're buying direct consumer meat, but there's at least 3 times during the week that you're going to want a fully prepackaged meal sent to you. We're partnering with Sunbasket. Why don't you go there to get your prepackaged meals?" So again, it's just like amazing how interconnected everything can be in this partnership economy.
This is by far my favorite part of like talking to you, Dave, is all of these stories, because it's incredible how the first co-host and good friend of mine, Kevin Rahaja. So Kevin's the was like head of partnerships, HubSpot, Typeform, and now he's over at ActiveCampaign, which they're doing fantastic. And one of the things that Kevin always impressed me with was his initial run as leading BD, like the first 30 employees at Groupon, right? Because he got to see so many examples of partnerships like quick. So for example, he launched the first Groupon for Uber, right? I mean, an explosion kind of like offer, right? And Groupon is kind of an interesting model to like get a bunch of experience for like offers through a network or a community. And I feel like that's what's missing, to get to my point, in B2B. So you gave some good B2B partnerships examples, but I think some of those, right, it's a direct to consumer business. So you might have a B2B partnership, but the end, the partner recipient, if you will, is still a consumer business. That's the stuff, this is more of my clarion call to the audience. That's the stuff that we should be studying, is like, how are consumer brands innovating by taking new, routes to market through partnerships that can kind of help the business to business category innovate. I mean, the Canva and HubSpot example, I think, is a great one, but I'd love to hear, a lot of our audiences is in the B2B space. I think Impact, you've cut your teeth and really built yourself as the best in class platform for B2C brands, even though a lot of their partnerships are B2B. Talk to me maybe a little bit more about some examples that are B2B, Dave, that are,
Yeah. Well, maybe to help,
companies.
I'm not sure if you agree, but we think of B2B in two forms. There's B2B to C, which are the examples that I just gave you, where
Right.
two businesses are partnering to sell something directly to the end consumer. And then there's B2B to B, right? Two businesses working together, to refer business to a business, essentially. And so I think the best example, honestly, is what we're doing with Shopify, to be honest, right? So we have a channel partnership integration with Shopify. So if you're a new store on Shopify, think about this. Are you going to get in there and pay an $11 CPM for a Facebook ad? Sure, you might test that. I worry about the scale. If you're not targeting that precisely, or do you want to push a button and activate the pre-installed Impact integration so that you can go to work on getting revenue acquired more cost effectively? So think about that for a minute. Like finding getting into the impact software to find influencers, find these commerce content publishers, other businesses, influencers to refer you business. Even if you're a very small business on Shopify, which there are a lot of, that's a great B2B sort of partnership that that exists. And there, I already mentioned the Canva HubSpot example. What would be another one? Let me see if I can think offhand.
Well, I'll give my shameless Cloud Software Association plug. I always get this in here somehow, some way. This will be a perfect example. So by the time you listen to this, I actually did a master class on this topic. So it's the first time where the mic was 100% turned on me, where how to land strategic alliances as a startup, right? So with your category leader. And I told the story of how I did this from PandaDoc to HubSpot, or from Drift to Marketo, or Drift to Adobe, from like zero relationship to like partner of the year, like #1 strategic partner. And this goes back to, I think we brought this up in our kind of pre-chat, and I don't think you'd picked it up, but correct me if I'm wrong. The Sumo Advantage is written by the founder of TrueCars. Had you heard of that book, Dave? I'd brought it up a couple times on the show, and I always bring it up reluctantly because I guess it did teach me something. But basically, what he talked about was the dynamics that are required to go land these big industry-defining partnerships. A little bit dated, but I think relevant, especially Michele, to your point, like finding the black swan, right? Like what is that thing that is true that not all parties are aware of that aligns all of this interest? And I feel like from a B2B to C standpoint, you're seeing a very clear path to customer acquisition, right? There's typically some like direct link tracking, and there's some way to kind of expand that audience. One example that I love forever is better.com. It's the fastest growing real estate kind of company in the world, and Credit Karma, the best credit. Like I bought 3 houses because of a well-timed Credit Karma better introduction, right? Like my credit hit a certain score and they were like, hey, you should probably refinance. Here's better, and here's their offers, right? Great example. But when it comes business to business, like how I had to land that alliance with Marketo or with HubSpot or with Adobe, it was very unclear in that first year if there was going to be any ROI, so to speak, in terms of like partnering up. So I think maybe that's why the examples that we think of in business to business are like, but it certainly seems like the tides are changing. If you think about, maybe a sister company to some of the partner disruption that you're, leading, Dave, like Crossbeam, right? So we've had Bob on the show. He's a fantastic episode. That platform is pretty strictly B2B right now, and it's trying to like help people understand, oh, you do have this overlap of TAM and customers, and trying to kind of associate. So maybe if there's not a ton of like near-term examples, I'd maybe love to get your thoughts or forecast, if you will, on, that B2B2B side. What do you think is going to change over the next few years or decade for these B2B partnerships that I think you have tons of incredible examples that everyone should study?
If you read the research, large companies like Salesforce,
Right.
who are some others, Microsoft, they talk about, how do you keep growing when you're that big? You're doing billions and billions in revenue. Do you think you can realistically rely on a brute force sales team go to market motion to keep growing 50% every year at that scale? It's impossible. Like you have to thrive on a channel partnership strategy at that scale. We're experiencing it ourselves. Like we're investing a lot more in our own channel partnership strategy, looking for other businesses to refer us business. So I mentioned the Shopify example. We were just at the SaaStr event just recently, sponsoring, because we were promoting our new release, our new capabilities in the B2B2B space, right? To compete more competitively and effectively within that segment of partnerships.
So you're making a bet there, not just philosophically, but from
100%.
a
Yeah,
financial and product investment as
this
well.
is a major growth initiative within impact.com, because it does have some nuances. What you're talking about is a very different sales motion. To your point around tracking, for example, tracking is less done through like a pixel to confirm it, and it requires like an integration with a CRM like a HubSpot and Salesforce, both of which we have, because there's typically like a lead or referral that comes in for like some complex software sale. It could be a financial service package, et cetera. And you need to be able to pass that lead through, track it through into that CRM, report back to the partner who referred a prospect over, report back, hey, we're 50% sales opportunity cycle. We've got another meeting coming up as a next step. There's collateral that you're making available to those partners. You want that available within the platform. All these things. It's very different from that B2B2C sort of experience where you're tracking typically a sale that happens directly from the consumer on the website that they're purchasing from. You can report that back in more kind of real time. When you're dealing with B2B2B, I'd say the biggest difference is the lag when a prospect or an opportunity is created to when a deal is closed. You're typically dealing with larger order values as well. So the commission rates are typically different within that exchange. Yeah, it has its own set of requirements, but we are deeply in that space now. We're expecting that to be another level of growth for our business, we think, going forward.
Absolutely. I feel like it's indicative of the partnership economy, to use the appropriate phrase, right? That's the title of the book. The Partnership Economy. That's coming out February 14th. And you can pre-order it on
February 15th.
Amazon today.
February 15th.
February 15th. That's your birthday.
His birthday is the 16th.
The 16th, okay. The day before my birthday.
All right.
February 15th, halfway through February. Actually, I guess not. I'm 28 days in February.
So I think my clarion call to the listeners that might be on the more B2B side is I've been fascinated in my conversations with Dave by all of the illustrative examples in the B2C world of just partnerships, ideas, and creativity that, the best B2B companies that I can reference, and like some of the special sauce, Michele, that made Drift so special in the beginning, right, was like we took a business to human approach, right? We changed the game of traditional B2B marketing in a lot of ways, like in our early stage growth, where we had an outsized impact on the market. And for those partnerships leaders out there, if you're struggling to find good analogs in stories and examples, follow along, Dave's story, the impact.com blog. They have some great content and examples of innovative companies that are out there doing partnership deals and motions and strategies that are just, I think, industry defining and, really shake up. Like we didn't even get into like the Ticketmaster example, which is such an incredible one, and how they partnered with the best platforms out there around events. So
maybe another pro tip, Jared, for your audience on B2B, a key strategy is just integrate with them, and you don't even have to talk to them. Like what I love about how businesses have evolved is just the open nature of platforms, and we very much embrace this and want this. We are very much an open architecture. If there's somebody that is looking to partner with us, it's very easy to do. And we've done that with like MMPs, the mobile measurement providers, for example, like Branch. We have an integration with, right? It just helps clients who are onboarding with Impact. It helps with the ease of onboarding to track these mobile events, and we give them an option. Sure, we have a page load API that you can integrate with, but if you're already integrated with Branch and you prefer to use them for the reporting of those events, no problem. But what does that enable you to do? The Branch guys are referring us business, and we're referring them business, and it's just a great, easy way for B2B2B sort of partnerships is just get after their open source documents, their APIs. Everything's interoperable today, or it should be. I think companies who resist that are not going to last for the long term. I think that the companies who embrace openness are going to be able to grow faster, I think, than their competitors, mostly by way of partnerships, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Michele.
No, I was going to say, I feel like, it used to be this, you need to build all the technology to be a jack of all trades and be everything for a company. But what I found is the most successful companies are just partnering with the other best in technologies. And you're able to have that joint value proposition for your customers, to have everything in one place, but have the best technologies all under one roof. So couldn't agree more.
And let the customers decide. They could either use our tracking or they could use Branch tracking. Like we shouldn't dictate that and force them into one or the other. I think here's the pros and cons. Like, make a decision, and we'll support whichever you think is the best course.
Exactly. I think you said B2B to B, B2B to C. I think no matter what, the way you got to think about it is you're selling to a human, and humans are into this new, what are you calling it? The decade of ecosystem, right? Or at least Jay McBain's been calling it that, where, they're going to buy in the way that they buy for consumer, whether it's business to business or business to consumer. And so the buyer's in control. You're still selling to a human, and partnerships is a really great way to get in front of your audience. So that's great.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the heart of it. It's like there's so much choice out there. You have to embrace the end buyer, the end consumer, and let them be the star of the show.
And that's the definition of the partnership economy, which you need to pre-order. Check it out. Get it for your C-suite. If you're going to force an initiative to say, hey, we're leaning in on partnerships. Dave's new book's coming out. I read a pre-copy. It's incredible. Great examples. So Dave, check him out. Check out the Impact blog. Follow him online. And PartnerUp. It's been an awesome show. Dave, thank you so much. Before we go, quick reminder to the folks at home. If you're just listening on audio, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Michele knows that she only accepts 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. But to check us out, check us out on YouTube as well. So you get to see our friendly faces as well. So Dave, it's been incredible. We absolutely have to have you back on post-book launch, and PartnerUp. We'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers.